All righty. Good evening, everyone. This is Gregory saying the new Black Leadership here live at Can Television. We are so honored and so blessed to once again have this golden opportunity to come to you over these precious airwaves. And today we have with us a very special guest, a brother, a friend, and an absolutely passionate individual, entrepreneur, advocate, and one that really believe in helping people as it relates to small business and entrepreneurship. This brother is an expert when it comes to crowdfunding, and he's also a real estate broker or real estate agent.
Yeah.
So, and with Caldwell Bank, is that right?
Yeah, Caldwell Banker.
Yeah, Caldwell Banker. So, Brother Dwayne, you got an extensive background, but the word that's very appropriate, as you know, I've read some things about you. You were just honored or celebrated. I think that was on May the 4th or something
That's
like
correct.
that.
Yes,
Was
sir.
it May the 4th?
Yes, sir.
And for the work that you're doing, and you also have joined in with other advocates that has been in Springfield advocating on behalf of small business and how different policies or different legislation have impacted people,
Right.
small business. So let me tell you something, bro. When I read some other things about you, I think the key thing is, so I've been doing this thing, Brother Dwayne, about the shepherd and the sheep. And, you know, I see you as a shepherd
Yes, sir.
because, you know, everything revolves around helping people. You're also a member of the new Black Leadership.
Yes, sir.
You know, you are one of our excellent brothers in the community, and you also host in Hyde Park the, I think they call it the happy hour.
Yeah, Hyde Park Happy Hour. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, look, we need to be happy
Right.
at times. Too many people are sad, but bro, man, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank
in
you.
the
Honor to
studio,
be
man.
here, Greg. Honor to be here. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to start off with this whole piece. I mentioned you're a shepherd because the word passionate, you real passionate about this. And how long have you been involved with this whole advocacy piece, you know, with small business and entrepreneurship?
I became a member of a group called the Small Business Advocacy Council somewhere around 2012. And I've been working actively with the group since that time, and on a more in-depth levels, maybe 2013, 2014, became a member of the board of directors, and then now the executive board of directors for the group just a couple of years ago, and it's been a pretty interesting run with the group and the advocacy work we do. The group is a nonpartisan group that essentially fights for the benefit of small business owners throughout the state on all levels and across all planes. So it's a really very interesting work, a good opportunity to learn about politics and how laws get, you know, written and then ultimately passed, and how it comes from the conception point, just even in a conversation that we might be having in a room.
Okay.
And it starts just with an idea like everything else, and eventually something like that becomes law. And to watch that work from start to finish is a very interesting process.
So when you look at our community, and I know they have a black page. We have a black page.
Right.
We have about, I guess, what's in that book is some of the businesses that's in our community. But when you look in our community, it's not black people. The mom and pop store, they're from another country. The other little wig store, whatever, the weave store, they from another country. The gas station, they from another country. The Dunkin' Donuts, they from another country. And it's not black folks. And so I know it's about empowerment as it relates to small business. How can, if we own and operate the small business in our community, are they being eaten up by the big giant corporations? That's where the bulk of our money is spent, or is small business doing pretty good?
Well, small businesses do very well, and I heard it recently said that if there was no money in our community, then those people wouldn't be in our community doing business in our community. They wouldn't move from another country, establish a business in a community where there is no reward for them at the end of the day. So there is money in our community. There are reports like the Buying Power of Black America that Ken Smichael and Target Market News put out. They really give you a detailed view of how we spend our money in different areas and different places. And we already know that other people outside our community study this data and use that data to elevate and advance their own business interests.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know it's money. And the business that primarily gets the money is the church.
Right. Well,
that's one business entity, I mean, honestly,
Right.
that understands that there's money. But when it comes to goods and services, you're right. Somebody do know that, hey, there's money there.
Right.
And they set up sometimes the most inferior type of places for us to go and spend our money.
Yeah, and I think that people will play down to the level of your own acceptance, right? So if we're not demanding more, if you walk inside a dirty store every day and buy food for your family without making any complaint about the condition of that store or that gas station or whatever it is, then he has no reason to want to change it. He has no reason to make another investment in that, that entity, that store, whatever.
That's right.
To change that. He has no reason to do that because it's not being demanded of him. So we're getting, I say power concedes nothing without a demand. That's not just governmental, that's in business too.
Yes, sir.
So the power is behind the counter when you walk in the store, and he'll concede nothing without a demand from his customers and his clients to do better or to create a more friendly environment for someone to come shop in. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have self-respect, then nobody's going to respect you.
Right.
And it's obvious that we don't have, enough of us don't have the fight in us. And then those that have the education or have the information, they work for other people.
Right.
So that talent that we have, I think about the talented 10th. But when you look at it, it goes outside of our community. Rarely comes back to our community.
Right.
I mean, talk about entrepreneurship.
Okay, so entrepreneurship over the last several years and with the rise of technology has really started to take off a lot more. Even in our community, you got everybody essentially has taken things that we used to call, in a sense, side hustles and turned them into legitimate businesses, where the guy who used to sell T-shirts on the corner now, because of the internet, can sell them online and have his own online store and e-commerce chain going and set up a real and a legitimate business. And then you couple that with the frustration that we have from whether it's the treatment that we get in corporate America or just the idea that as an individual you figure out that you want to do something on your own and do something bigger and start to achieve greater goals. That has been a wave that's been sweeping through the country, particularly since the recession. The last recession is where you really start. You started to see the rise of the personal development gurus, the Tony Robbins, even though he had been doing it a long time. Others had come along, James Arthur Ray and all these people teaching you about the law of attraction and all these things. And so people started to really absorb that, including me, and take that on and start to work through it and start to try to create ways to do for self. Whereas before, the beacon had been placed in their mind, as you well know, years ago, where you might have heard somebody say that we have to do for ourselves, but then when you get painted into a corner and you have nothing else to do, or the inspiration attacks you 10, 20 years later, and now here we are going through this wave of entrepreneurship. And now I think it's a wonderful thing, but it's a thing that we have to capture, and then we have to use these other tools, like legal tools like equity crowdfunding, to take that and advance that so that we can start to change those
Now,
dynamics
what is
in our
that?
community.
What is equity crowdfunding?
So equity crowdfunding is a situation essentially where, think of it just like most people are familiar with Kickstarter, GoFundMe, all these different things where you can raise money to create a product. It could be to build a prototype or something where you're trying to bring a product to the market. Small amounts of money could be, in that case, donated in exchange for a reward of some type of trinket, a keychain, a shirt, or whatever. And that money would go to that company, and then they could use it to work to elevate their interests. Oftentimes that worked, a lot of times it didn't work. Equity crowdfunding essentially is where the same dynamic exists, where you can have an established, existing business, and let's say you're struggling a little bit, you need to raise some money. Now, instead of you having to go to Wall Street type investors or venture capitalists and hedge funds, or say that talented temp that got a little bit more of that money, but it's a much harder sell for them, you can have the community that you operate in, or people within the confines, let's say like the state of Illinois or even the country, depending on how you did it. Now everybody can invest in that. Everyday non-accredited investors can now invest in everyday business opportunities, whereas before you would have had to go through a myriad of issues with the Securities and Exchange Commission to make that work. That was a much more expensive process, much more scary process, but it was never one that was designed for the everyday person, your mom, your grandma, your aunt, to be able to put $100, $200 in and let that collective add up to where you want to go.
Where is something like that actually being modeled? Anywhere in the city of Chicago or anywhere that you know of that folks have actually
Done it?
Okay,
it's going on all over this country. So, as a part of the Jobs Act of 2012 with President Obama, that's where it became legal at. That's what made it legal. However, it took 4 years until May of 2016 before it actually became legal on a federal level, meaning that they have a nationwide form called Title III equity crowdfunding that you can use to raise money from anybody in the country. Title III.
Okay.
But it has its own set of rules in terms of how much any individual can invest and how much a person that's raising the money can raise. So,
and what about the returns?
That's the choice of the issuer. So I could tell you that you invest in my business, I'll give you a 20% return, right? It can be structured as equity or it can be structured as debt. Now, during that 4-year gap, because states got excited about the idea, but the Securities and Exchange Commission was slow to write the rules, states started to take on and make those laws on an intrastate level, all right? So by the time Illinois got around to it, I think at the time we started our lobby, there were like 14 to 20 states, something like that had already had it on the books. And it seemed like, it was moving around, seemed like a good idea. And then we started that lobby somewhere around 2014. We got the law passed in 2015. It became law in 2016. But for a similar reason as the federal law, it didn't become functional until January of this year, 2017. Now, you can go on websites and watch what has been happening on a federal level and see this happening all day. People are funding restaurants, breweries, consumer packaged goods products. They're raising billions of dollars to build business from everyday people
like
throughout
us.
America. And people like us, yeah. I think that, I haven't done a specific statistic on how many of these are black-owned companies or whatever the case may be, but that's also a part of why I've been on this, this passionate run to make people aware that this is going on, because while everybody is, barking at the powers that be to offer more and to reinvest, the fishing rod has been given to us, and now all we have to do is go fish from among one another, and we can make that happen. But, sometimes that speech, that talks, falls on, the old doubt and, what it is. But it's real, and these examples are out there every day. Now, this is something that I was excited about because this was something we got an opportunity to be on the front end of. Meaning we didn't find out about it like the real estate boom last time. We didn't find out until it was, the Titanic had hit the iceberg and was already sinking before we got on the ship.
Right.
This time we're at the front of the game. And we are at the genesis essentially of the law. So that means we get the opportunity to go out and use this opportunity before those same people that own those businesses in our community now use it to buy more of it.
I love it. How did you coming to this whole advocacy piece. This whole, I mean, I went through Landmark. Are you familiar with Landmark? The Landmark Educational Forum?
Yes.
I went through the Landmark Educational Forum, and it was about breakthroughs. And I mean, it was some really deep information. You know, naturally, it was like the psyche hotline person. It's like, if you want to know more, you got to pay more. They take you only so far, and then the rest is, I mean, it's almost like education. It's like, we want everybody to have it, but then all of a sudden, a cost is attached to that. And I get it. This is a capitalistic society, so people do want to be paid for their services, and they want to make profit, right?
Yeah.
But when I listen to you, your background, has it always been involved with this? Because you, I mean, you're not only passionate, but you smart, man, about this.
Well, it came from, the advocacy part came from, I was hosting networking events. I had a business that died in the recession. I was in the real estate business from a different angle, if you will.
Okay.
And my business and everything I was doing at that point died. I was looking for something else to do. I wanted to find a way to surround myself with better people. I had started listening to those personal development tapes too, trying to find a way to ignite some fire into my own economics. And I started hosting networking events in the South Loop and then in the West Loop. The events got to be pretty big, and it got to be very popular. We were getting 100, sometimes as many as 150 people a week coming out to Red Kiva in the West Loop. And the Chicago Tribune came out and did a story on it.
Oh, okay.
And when they did a story on it, it was a nice size story, crosstown edition. Shout out to Claudia Banks, a young woman from the National Association of Black Journalists I met. And I actually had joined that organization in an attempt to just want to be around people that were just doing something, reporters and all of this and the media thing. And I just wanted to be around that. So I joined the organization, went to a Christmas party, met a woman, and next thing you know,
You got
a big article.
No,
There was a big article in the newspaper about myself and my co-host doing this event.
No, when you said that, I was like, and met a woman,
Yeah, no,
and it was happy.
right, we live happily ever after, right? But I did. I guess you could say I met a woman. And I met a woman called Passion, right? And we got married when that happened because what it did was it set a bar that I couldn't recede back from anymore. And so I got contacted on the basis of that article by a young lady who was the executive director of the Small Business Advocacy Council at the time. And she said, we'd love to meet with you and talk more about what you do. It fits in line with what we're doing. They were hosting a lot of networking events. They really had limited diversity in their group, and so did I. You know, I pretty much had all black people coming to my events. Maybe, you know, it was a sprinkle of different people here and there. And their networking events that they were having in the downtown and in other, you know, college areas or suburban areas were, you know, it wasn't a lot of diversity there. It was mostly whites and others, but it just wasn't a lot of pure diversity there. And they made a clear statement to me at the beginning that that's what they wanted to do.
Diversify it?
Is to diversify the group, not only just because their passion, the SBAC's passion is about business owners. Okay. It doesn't matter to them what your color, shade, or ethnicity or whatever is. It really doesn't even matter your political views because you got Democrats and Republicans
about
there.
Making money.
But at the end of the day, it's about what matters for small business. And when I heard him say that, the first time I met Elliot Richardson, I was in. And I've been a member of it ever since. And that, what I said was, here's an opportunity where there's, at that time it was like 350 members.
Okay.
So I'm saying, okay, there's a small army of people who are well established in business who are giving me an opportunity to come in and work with them to build legislation that I can now take back and offer the benefits of that to my own community.
Oh, wow.
Made all the sense in the world to me. And that's why I was so passionate about it, because nobody was talking about advocacy. Everybody's saying let's march, protest, do this and that. But nobody was saying, let's just do pure advocacy work. And let's advocate on the merits, the merits of what we're talking about. So the crowdfunding law was sold on the merits of what it means to small business.
I love it.
Not because you owe me, but because this makes sense and it's good for our people.
So looking at, and I'm so glad because you have not at all lent any time to making no excuses about what they and what them and thou and all the people out in space.
You won't get that from me.
there's a plan, there's a way out.
Right.
And looking at the landscape of our community and what's needed, can this give our community what it needs to be healthy, to be productive, to be prosperous?
If you use, and I'll say this, it might seem like a bold statement to a lot of people, Greg, but if we were to use equity crowdfunding the right way on a strategic level, we could rebuild Black America with that economic tool as a product.
Oh, boy.
Because I want you to just keep in mind,
man.
all of the historical discriminatory forces are taken out of the equation. So there is no bank redlining because there's no banks involved. The only person you got to convince is me to put my 100, my 200, my 5,000 into what you got. And if we really about helping and working with each other, it's all, again, it's meritorious. So you got to come correct. You got to bring a real solid plan to the table. But if you got an existing business like Z-Berry in Hyde Park,
Right,
they
I'm
recently
familiar with
announced that they got to close their doors because the rent was
No,
going up.
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah, they did because their rent is going up, right? And because Hyde Park is developing and growing, so as a natural element of capitalism, the rent goes up on those that don't own where they're at. So they're going to close soon. And that's very disappointing to a lot of people.
That's very
They
disappointing
could
to
use
hear.
they could use a tool, and I'm not saying that they should have, because they may not be aware of it, and I've never walked in the door to try to pitch this to them, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm throwing shade. But I'm saying that if they were aware and used a tool like equity crowdfunding, they could get the money that they need to sustain the business where they are. And to give you an example, if 200 people from within a 5-mile radius of that store put in and invested $100, $200, $500, $1,000, where they gonna go buy all their yogurt at? At Z-Berry. Where they gonna take selfies at and send their friends to? Z-Berry.
Z-Berry.
So it works as a tool of dedicated patronage as well. So it almost ensures,
so much sense.
using that model ensures the success of the business if it's hyper-localized and done under the proper strategy.
I love it. I didn't know they was going out of business. So that
Well, they're
in
moving.
itself,
I'm hoping
well,
that they're not out for good. We know that they're leaving that location. They're closing at that location.
and it's typically the cost of real estate, because I mean they get a volume of people and it's seasonal. You know,
Yeah,
it's seasonal.
seasonal, yeah.
I mean, honestly, I mean in the wintertime people not going
Yeah.
to Z-Berry
Right.
that often. Speak to the people about the trust piece, because when it comes to this, people have to trust. You got to have a level of integrity
Right.
with folks, because I mean that's real. You get that 200 amount of people that if they looked at a Z-Berry and decided, and you broke it down and how they
Right.
could benefit, they still need to trust that
That
this is going to work,
Right.
or if this is where they decide to invest.
Right. Now,
And I'm gonna get the people the number. Anybody want to talk to this brother? We need an hour. We protesting. We need an hour. Dwayne is absolute. Oh, we got a caller. So we're gonna take this caller real quick, and then we're gonna. I want you to finish your statement.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing? Can we turn it up?
Fine. You know, the gentleman next to you, he talks well about how things are so good. But they're not. Because for the last 10 years, African American and Hispanics haven't had a good time. The last 10 years is the same thing for us. But you know what? What got me is the gentleman next to you said, with a smile, you know, I don't have the statistics for the failures, you know, of the stores and stuff. With a smile. So that tells me he's up for the buck and not the people. Thank you.
I didn't totally understand.
I got a sense of what he's talking about, and what I'd like to address with that is this. My attitude about my approach to all of this is one that you're going to find to be extremely positive. I don't play the negativity and the blame game.
Teach.
So you're not going to get me
Teach
saying
me.
what Trump and Rahm and Browner need to do. It's about what we need to do for us. And I say it with a smile because the opportunity is here. And quite honestly, I'm damn proud that I helped to bring that opportunity to bear.
Teach, bro.
And that and being a person that's out there talking about this, that type of sentiment can offer me frustration, and it leads to the question you just asked about the trust factor, right? So when a person presents an opportunity to you, I came from the neighborhood, from the hood. Like a lot of us, I spent a lot of time in some very nefarious places as a child and as a young teenager and such, whether it was at cousin's house or family house. But I remember the way a guy would run in and he would say, well, man, they got a truckload of this and that down the street, and everybody pick up, run up, get all their money and run straight down there without any question about trusting nothing. Like, is it real? Where did it come from? Where were they made? They're not asking that question. You come with a legitimate opportunity, and they want you to break it down from the rooter to the tutor, so to speak.
The white man across the street with his ice, the black man across the street with his ice. We're going by the white man's ice because we think his is colder.
It's colder.
You're absolutely right.
And to be straight with you, even his illegal products are better. You know, I got this from one of them. You know, it's like, hey. So the trust factor is this, man. When we realize and we take a serious look at where we are, and then we get presented an opportunity to invest in something, that's why I like the idea of using equity crowdfunding for existing businesses as well, because going back to Z-Berry, they got an existing store. It's up and running. You know it's there.
I got a
and
quick question because we got
mm-hmm.
a little more to. We just got a couple more minutes. As a new black leader,
mm-hmm.
you part of the coalition,
right.
the New Black Leadership Coalition. You sit on a very important committee. Mm-hmm. And what is some of that? Can you give a tiny bit of that information of what some of the things that we're trying to do, bring to the table? I mean, you last week, I think it was last week, a week or so ago, and when you sat at the table, I was just locked in on what you were talking about.
Well, the idea is that we have to find a way to get our people on this economic development boat. It can't be something that we talk about and really argue and fight with other people about doing, and we're not willing to do for ourselves. If you put yourself into the mind of a corporation and you want that corporation to come and invest in a community to create jobs, they have to look at the periphery of what's going on in that community, and sometimes, quite honestly, they just say, I'm not going. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make economic sense for me to go, but then the city or the state will incentivize them to come, and then that's the TIF money, that's the tax breaks that we end up having at odds about because they're getting more benefit than we are. So now we have an opportunity to corral activists and leaders from all organizations around this city and set up an opportunity for us all to work together to bring real economic development that is generated from us and by us, not made for us and given to us.
Teach.
That's what we have to do. Now, it doesn't expiate the city or the state from their responsibility to us as taxpayers.
That's right.
But if the Lord helps those who help themselves, and you help your child when they helping themselves
God bless
to come
the child
up,
as his own.
Then what'll happen is this. When you start building businesses and not using banks at all, you build 3 or 4 nice businesses in a target community and not use a bank at all, and you've raised a couple $1 million now to do that, you can raise up to $4 million per project per year in this program or under this law. They see you do that, what's going to be their reaction? They're going to come to you now and give you everything that they told you they didn't have before, because now you don't need it. Any banker of any institution, you can call your banker, call your loan officer, call anybody know anything about money, and they'll tell you that the best time to ask for it is when you don't need it. Nobody wants to lend money to a man that's desperate to open his business because they know you're putting gas in your car and you're feeding your family with that money.
Ooh,
so when you show, that's why they always ask you, what's your skin in the game? How much skin in the game you got? You trying to get $1 million from me, how much have you put in your money? That's what they want to know. If you got the skin, they'll let you in.
Folks, we need an hour to 2 hours. Dwayne, boy, you got to come on our other show on Monday nights again.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
talk about, can people reach you? How can people reach you if they wanted to reach you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, any social network by my name, Dwayne Hirsch. I can be emailed at hirschnetwork and the number 1 at gmail.com.
Okay. Man, thank you, brother. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Folks, and you should share this. I mean, I know you're going to share
absolutely.
on Facebook. This is the kind of information that needs to be shared.
Yes.
Because we've been hoodwinked, and as you said, that negative energy of what we cannot do, and then most people don't even know that this exists. So anyway, we got to go wrap it up. Thank you, Brother Dwayne. They putting a red light on us, the signs blinking. Thank you guys for tuning in, Facebook Live, and over the Can Television Network. Peace and love. Thanks, bro.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Excellent.